I am Ann-Peggy Divine. Welcome to the Divine Design, the podcast where we unfold heaven on earth and reframe spirituality and theology for a new cosmic era. Your journey on human evolution and integration of your divine design starts here. Welcome, Santari Green, to this Divine Design podcast once more.
Thank you for having me back.
You actually started the first podcast in 2025. We recorded it December and it said, well, this is kind of setting 2025 and all the amazing thing we will go into.
Yes, it was actually 2024, December 2024.
What did I say?
Nice try.
Yeah, December 2024, yes.
And time flies.
And actually, in this podcast, I will give the link to the first we did in December 24. But why I wanted you back, because first of all, the experience I had with you in 23, 2 years ago, when you sung My Essence into Being, you activate people. One of your gifts, you have a lot of gifts, and it is giving people an experience, and this experience is kind of, we are reminded of our home frequency, the luminous part of us, the bigness of us.
So you want me to take it from there?
Yes.
Okay. You say it's a gift of many. I don't know about that. What I will say is that I have undergone several transformations during my life, and those types of transformations allow you to reflect, reconsider, and re-know yourself. So we go through processes in our growing up stages, and quite often we believe that we are certain things, a mother, a father, takes on roles, positions of responsibility, etc. And that there are also certain limitations which go along with who we believe ourselves to be, which in a way restrict us in our thinking about going beyond those limitations. So I'll see if I can take an example which is appropriate. For me, in growing up, I went through several job positions, moving from one thing to another thing. They always seem quite timely, reflecting going back, but they still kept me at a certain level of knowing myself and understanding what I could possibly be. And then there was I went through a series of revelations and initiations, which allowed me to reflect that who we are thinking of ourselves as human beings is actually a vast limitation. We don't allow ourselves to think beyond the planet. We don't allow ourselves to think about our origins, where we come from. That would be perhaps our consciousness that comes into human form, has an experience, and then moves on to something else. We don't think really clearly with any clarity about the process of going over, dying, and being reborn somewhere else. For some people, they have these understandings, they have these knowings, these reflections, they have the experience of being able to speak with profundity about previous lives. So we know that there are not fixed things in the universe. There is an unlimited amount of awareness about all sorts of manners of things, which quite clearly many people do not even get the slightest hint of a possibility that there is a life in another form and in another existence that they might have been part of. So what I what I might say to you and to others on this podcast is that I've had experiences which allow me to re-know myself, and therefore I'm not fixed in any way. In any way that makes sense. I feel that I'm not just a person. I feel that I'm a vast intelligence, which is composed of many experiences, both in this world and other worlds. And that allows me to speak and to talk with an authority. That when people hear something being spoken, they realize that there is something which seems to be like a trigger in them. They realize that there's something being spoken which is a profound truth, which isn't a truth that they would have known of before, but suddenly there's a realization, oh my God, I feel different. I feel somehow moved, changed, transformed, elevated. And what people might say, they think about ascension as being one. They've gone into another plane of existence and are no longer here. Well, what we're really talking about is that being here is an understanding that ascension isn't about going anywhere. Ascension is about a revelatory self-awareness experience, which allows you to suddenly start to recognize that the universe is talking to you in so many different ways, not just through plants and through animals. It is almost like when you speak in this way, the air starts to become alive around you. It tends to sparkle. It has this feeling of vitality. And people don't realize that they can speak in such a musical, profound, and extremely expansive way that they also will make the air come alive around them. But you have to have the experience. You can't just rely on someone who said that, and then you go, well, how do I do that? No, well, let's go through some sort of experience so that people can get this for themselves. So you can do this with open eyes or with closed eyes, whatever fits for you. Just imagine for a moment that you were never born, that you were never born as a human being, yet you have an existence. And you know that you have an existence because you have this feeling, this amazing feeling, not just of an expansion, because that would imply that you've got something to compare to, but a feeling of a great knowing of all things. And it's almost like you have a godlike sense that you could create something like a planet just by a simple putting out your hand and touching the space around you. And something starts to manifest. Something starts to come alive because you have the flame of life, the breath of life in you. You are of that beingness, intelligence, creativeness. And these things come naturally. You have a thought, and it's just like everything around you ripples, because that thought might be the very thing that feeds the universe. A feeling of wonder and awe, a feeling that there is magnificence in every particle, in everything that has ever been created. As if when you put your hands together and draw them apart, you feel something surge between them. As if you can almost like see the vibratory effect of all the things that you believe to constitute the universe is actually being recreated in you. Everything is changeable. You know that. You know that in some amazingly artistic way, because you are an artist, a creative artist. But there's not a label that you assign to yourself. It's just a sheer knowingness. You create worlds, universes. Planetary life is easy. You know that you come from places that so far you have not even questioned the wheres and the whys and the hows, but you exist. Unquestionably exist. And then to be a human being would be easy. So what happened for you? Where did you go? What did you experience?
I went so many places. It was like, I think I was 10, 15 places. I was in the sarcophagus, the experience you gave me, because it was all knowledge that I had. So I went into that, and I went into experience, I think it's 6, 7 years ago, when I became a plant. I was a plant, a peace lily, and from being a peace lily, I became a tree, and becoming a tree, I saw some eremit eat me up, and I became an eremit. And from the eremit, then they came lava volcano of the a mountain, and then the lava took me. So it was kind of a process of elevating, because when we talk about ascension, I see that species, when kind of, if a lion eat another animal, maybe it's lower in the chain of kind of animals, you can see it as an ascension process. This animal become a lion. So it's like, I saw Mother Nature. I felt, no, not saw. I saw and felt Mother Nature in its ascension, and that we as human can be everything, because when I travel in consciousness, when I feel this, I can be whatever I want, kind of. And I remember, I think it's 10 years ago, I was asked, what do you feel when you go into this? I feel like wild nature. And in the beginning, I didn't want to see that I feel like wild nature, because it could be very violent. Not violent, it can be, what is the word? Fierce, or kind of, So wild nature, it feels like I can go everywhere. But I think if we, or what I have experienced, when I go into this state, I can be whatever I want, as you say. So I can be a flower, I can be a tree, I can be a volcano, I can be a tornado, I can be water. We can be everything. So I think that we as humans are giving a gift of that we are kind of the cell in God to experience everything.
I'd also say, as you were speaking, thinking that for some people, they would be emotionally disturbed by the thought of a wild creature eating another wild creature in front of them. And that in itself would, though understandable, be a restriction and limitation, because then there's the fearfulness, oh my God, and the tragedy of it, and the enormity that this is life, and can we not transcend beyond that? Well, the transcension part is understanding the nature of what it is that you're witnessing and observing and being part of. And if you try to put it into these forms that something is not right and needs to be corrected or resolved in some way, then you've taken a particular viewpoint. And in that viewpoint, you have now allowed yourself to be solidified in some way. I'm not saying desperately solidified, but everything that people talk about when they have these stances and biases and prejudices and opinions, and this is right and this is wrong, and there's good and there's evil, etc. And we talk of the polarities as well. these are all points of view, and they're not necessarily something that needs to be held on to with any rigidity or thinking that, there's a morality here which must be followed. And I know that people will have spiritual and religious beliefs which allow them to have a sort of like foundation of some sort. But that foundation will only take you so far.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that foundation at some point is going to be, boom, gone, to allow you to go further and to suddenly start to understand something more about the greatness and the enormity and the expanse, and to witness the universe is all, if they're laid out in front of you, you will go, wow,
Yeah.
how wonderful, how amazing. And is there anything more? You might come out that question, is there anything more?
Yeah.
Yes, there will always be something more.
Yeah.
We
Always.
are amazingly creative beings who wish to experience, but
Yeah.
also wish to be innovative. So that there will always be something that will be new coming along. And if you're trying to hold on to something, it's going to drag you along until you no longer have the energy to hold on.
Yeah.
I mean, this might be self-evident to some people, but for some people it's, oh my goodness, that's a hell of a leap. I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm ready for that yet. Well, maybe you're not going to be ready for that for some time. And yet, I think there are changes taking place in this world that are amazing if you are aware of them, if you have the eyes to see things playing out in front of you, and don't try to conceive of things being so black and white. Then you might reconsider who you will be in this world in the next few years. What is the nature of your human body? How was it composed? Can you reconfigure it? Can you re-know yourself? Will you allow yourself to re-know yourself?
Yeah.
Interesting questions,
Yeah.
all on this podcast show.
Yeah. And when you speak, and what I said when I go into all this experience, I have gone into a lot of past life and future life, and I know that someone don't think this is real, but that's okay. But I learn a lot from all my experience going into past life and future life. And one of the life in the 1300, I only became 19, and I gave myself to a puma. And I talk about this because of sacred reciprocity. Because earlier we had another relationship to nature. And I gave myself to the puma because in this life I was sexual abused in my tribe, and it was so hard for me to live. So I didn't want to live anymore. I had the experience. I said yes to go into that experience in the 1300, to experience a lot of sexual abuse and to lift this tribe. But when I was 19, I said I cannot do anymore, and I gave myself to nature, to a puma that ate me, and this puma was elevated by eating me. And I know this is another thought understanding, and that's okay, but what I see, one of the missing link is kind of the relationship to Mother Earth. Because yes, we can travel in consciousness and universe and high, but also the Mother Earth, we have to ground ourselves also, and the connection. And when all the pollution we have done on Mother Earth, we feel it. Because what you are speaking about, it is what do you feel, what do you sense? And we can sense Mother Nature, we can sense the animal, we can sense the plant, we can sense everything. So kind of the way we have lived, you said people will have some thoughts about what we speak about, but for me it feels like the old way of programming, and we are now invited into a new way of thinking, a lighter or more elevated way of living. I call it Homo Luminous. Yeah, we are embodying more light, kind of.
Hmm. One of the things that you asked me to talk about for the podcast was about what I might touch in others,
Yeah.
touch in other people. And you've given your experience of being in the sarcophagus that you felt almost like being reborn in
Yeah.
some sort of way.
Yeah.
Um, this relates to what I said earlier about how you know yourself. How to know yourself without any limitation. How to know yourself without feeling that you're trying to do things for other people necessarily. To be of service to others is something that I've heard recently.
Yeah.
I also heard of people talking about there being more than one reality. Simply we might say, well, yes, there's that reality and there's the reality that I'm living in, and they're quite separate. And there's no way that I'm going to go over there and doing that type of stuff. For me, I think that when you consider that not only is everything energy, which many people subscribe to that belief and concept,
Yep.
but that there is this possibility also that what you feel in yourself in these elevated moments of being pristine or God aware or elevated in some way, also there is that in others as well. That your experience is not necessarily a personal experience, which cannot be given to others or cannot be understood by others. But that if you subscribe to the belief also that everything is communicable, everything is communicable instantaneously, that if you have the feeling that everybody is this spark of life that is amazingly creative, and you almost like have that awareness and that knowingness, and you feel that the intelligence of that is also permeated in every living cell of every living being in this world, then this world starts to change to become that. But you are working at that level, of which the knowingness says, bam, this is already done at this level. The power at which you do things, almost like the purity in which it is done without agenda, without having to think that this needs to be done and that needs to be done, but that there's a harmonic vibration which is set in motion, which almost like sets everything to that attunement.
Yeah.
That is almost like for me, a very simple way of saying people are now being gifted something which ordinarily in their lives they would never have imagined to be possible, but nevertheless it is set in motion.
Yeah. Yeah.
So whether you see in 20 or 50 years time people going with such amazing clarity,
Yeah.
I have this awareness that perhaps I'm the divine in human form.
Yeah.
I'm not putting any time to any of this, but I'm just saying that if you have this level of awareness that almost like speaks to the creation in everybody, then you know that something is already being done.
Yeah.
That that life has taken charge in a different form. And that life isn't about the normal human things, going out and getting a job and taking care of the kids, etc. It is about a gift that somehow changes the experience of being a human,
Yeah. Totally.
and people will be forever changed from that moment on.
Yeah.
From that moment in which they can conceive that something is being done, that something is changing in their life, that they have a feeling of wonder and awe, and something speaks to them, something perhaps in their inner world, something they hear a voice which might be for them the divine or whatever. They know that they are not alone in this experience, but that the whole of the universe is speaking with them.
Yeah. I love what you say because you speak about the divine and you activated me, and it was given me. I was invited when I was in this sarcophagus to take the name divine. and I told you, and when I kind of came back in my personality, kind of put it like that, just to understand the frame, like, no, I can't take the I'm divine because, yeah. So I was kind of, oh, can I do it? And you pushed me, why can't you do it? And I said, well, I can apply for it, and if the government say no, I will not take it. Why? You don't need the approval for them. So you kind of, you being there helped me to, because it was for real. When you are in this state, everything is kind of for real, because you say, what reality do we choose? So it was for real, but at the same time, when I went back, so it was like, okay, will I be in that reality, in that reality? So the kind of, and you said, yeah, you question a lot of things. Why can't you do it? Why do you need that approval? So it was, okay, I'll do it. So thank you for kind of pushing me or holding the space, because you hold the space, because it was so real. And of course we want to live as divine being, because that was, I experienced myself as a divine being. And then it was kind of presented to take the name, surname divine. It's like, but that's too big. But I did it, and now I have had it for 2 years, and my life has changed radically. But I also think I was ready, because I see that it is well, that is also a concept. It's kind of a process. But I know that we can shift in an instant. But to take this body with us, that's what when I guide people to it, we want it, and it's like the experience I had with you. I wanted it, but then I have a family, I have kids, I have my work, everything kind of, okay, how does this new divine being fits in this system? It doesn't fit. So you have to find, how can you intertwine it? I think that's the hardest thing for people. I don't know what you're, because my husband, my children, they are not into all this divine living as I am, but they see the big change and they accept it. In the beginning, when I was in the process, going kind of back and forth, they was like, what are you doing? But they see the benefits. So now it's like, okay, my name is Ann-Peggy Divine, and it's okay, and I have changed my life radically, and we have more harmony in our family than ever. But
so they have accepted you, and what you stand for, and how you are in the world.
But when I guide others, this is what they say. They think that's the hardest, because we feel it. As you say, you can guide it, and we have an experience. How do we help people to kind of embody it? And because we want to be accepted. Because if I are in my divine being, and if all around me is kind of, no, I don't want to relate to your reality, kind of, because then we can go into, I have worked in psychiatry. What is psychiatry? Okay, you have a reality that is kind of, you mention it yourself. What reality do we live in? So what are your thoughts about that?
Well, interesting you put it in that way.
Yeah.
I would say that when you are in that elevated, let's say an elevated state, for want of a better phraseology, you can be completely accepting of all others. That's one thing. There is nothing for people to press against, to push against, to say things against, because you are accepting of them and their style of life, and not criticizing them, and not saying that you've got to understand me, or this is what I'm doing and I need your support, etc. You're not saying any of that. Who you're being is self-sufficient in itself.
Yes.
And it is not seeking approval of others. So to clarify that, you are totally fine with other people and whatever state they're in. But also, bearing in mind what we've also said, you can be amazingly creative in your own right, and silently communicating to others that they also are amazingly creative in their own right, and that they can become more aware of that. You can do that telepathically. You can do that in consciousness without having to actually verbalize in any way whatsoever, and probably get some sort of criticism or kickback, or people say, "No, I don't believe that. I'm not going along with that." It's who you're being.
Yep.
The presence of who you're being can be profound in itself. If you can hold to that, regardless of what's going on around you, and being totally self-sufficient, then who people can be start to show up differently.
Yeah.
Because of who you are showing up as.
Yes.
People would have already heard about the name translation 2 years later. Oh, she's Ann-Peggy Divine. So what?
Yeah. Yeah.
No problem.
And I'm love you said, because was reminded now, I think it's a year or two, you asked me what was the different, because in the beginning my family kind of said they didn't want to be with my journey kind of evolving. And he said, what was the change? It was actually when I stopped talking about it. I talk about this spiritual thing, and I like, this is kind of the new. When I stopped and just became it, as you now say, that was kind of the key in my life. I don't say that this is for everyone, but when I just stopped saying I'm this way, I just was myself and telepathically worked kind of with my consciousness, and just was me without saying any words, then there was a shift and they accepted me, and ever since we have had more and more harmony in my family. So that's, yeah.
So are there any questions that you have about any of that?
Yeah, what I want to go into what you said. I don't see it as a gift, but I know that everything is wording, but you sing, and by your voice you bring people into a vibration and experience. And we have tried it on Zoom, and the program cannot hold your voice, so we cannot take. But
yeah, it's a thing about noise suppression.
Yeah. But what are your thoughts about because you saw that, oh, I can use my voice to help people. Can you say something about that?
Yes, when people hear sound, and it's not human language or any language at all, really. When they just hear sound and the tones somehow seem to have trying to find the right language for it. People can be repositioned by sound. That is, they can be repositioned in their feeling of life. They can be put into a state of, you might say, blissfulness, a state of peace, a state of fantastic vitality. The sound is doing something to those people in that state without any verbalization taking place at all. And I think that sometimes is the thing which people need, or which some people need, let's put it that way, which some people need to have sound rather than words, rather than being in a meditation, because the sound somehow just seems to do something that's magical, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
It weaves a magic, a spell, and people fall into the influence of that magic spell and allow themselves to drift, and they no longer have any sense about their environment or about the concerns and worries that previously, was in the forefront of their thinking. All of that is almost like, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. So it comes to this place where I say being a human being sometimes is very fraught because of all the limitations, core beliefs, etc., cultural, social, religious, spiritual. Everything that seems to have some sort of value at some point ceases to have value when you need to go beyond it. And in that beyond state, to get that beyond state, sometimes sound is a very easy vehicle to allow people to go, whoa. They forget that they have a body. They forget that they're in a world called Earth.
Yeah.
They forget that there is some sort of existence where they're a human being. All of that is gone. It might take a second, it might take a minute, it might take longer, but then boom, the feeling is like amazing.
Yeah.
Such liberation, such ability to be able to go from here to here to here. As you talked about earlier, you had maybe 10 different types of experiences flashing from here to here and here. If people can have that on tap, or they listen to something, they would realize that all these worries and concerns and troubles, etc., don't have a real existence other than what they give them, to what they put their energy to. The feeling that they have to care for the elderly parents or trying to nurse a sick child. Something in you says that the energy can do this. The energy can be a part of this process of helping people go through various stages of their development.
Mm.
People try to do it in very hard to manage ways. So I'm saying that it is almost like a shift in who you are being, which allows you to facilitate the things that you need to do as a human being.
As a divine being.
Okay, a divine being, a divine human being. I know people will want to hang on to the human being as long as possible.
But if I ask you, Santari, was there a moment in your linear earthly life that you had an experience that changed you radically, that you went into? Because, as you said, you have work and you had the same frequency, you had the same experience when you was young, from going from work to work. What was your kind of peak experience that brought you into this new reality of life?
Oh, I'd say there'd be many. There
Yeah.
wouldn't be one. There wouldn't
Yeah.
be a peak. It's the accumulation of experiences which allow you not to distance yourself so much from where you have been, but allow you to somehow transcend everything that you thought that you were. And yes, I've done channeling, and yes, I've done various healing modalities and shiatsu and Reiki and holistic massage. And I know that when I work with someone, I'm not just working their physical ailment, I'm actually working the energetics of the person.
Yeah.
So it's how you use everything that you've been given and everything that you know that you're a part of. But there's so much wisdom, I would say, that I have now that I have had done at any previous point in my life. And it's not anything that I claim to be me solely. It's about this feeling about this unknown power in the universe, which somehow life has been breathed into it, and it is refashioning in itself, and it is creating things newly. And so it is unnamed, and in some sense, it doesn't have an origin, no beginning, no ending. But nevertheless, it exists. And if I think that anybody can get to that stage, they are an unknown power with such potential, wisdom, intelligence, understanding, comprehension, ability to refashion themselves, let alone refashion others, then they would have reached something which is beyond any gift that could possibly be given, beyond any value whatsoever.
Yeah.
So let's just take a couple of moments for everybody who's listening to this podcast, that they can fashion themselves in whatever way they choose. That they are a gift, not only to themselves, but a gift to all of creation. Everything that we've talked about on this podcast, they are not just part of, they are also the totality of it. They are not separate from any of it. They're like the aurora borealis lights that I see in your background, changing, ephemeral, dancing very lightly, in form and out of form. The ability to be able to touch every particle of existence. On an ever-evolving path that may have no destination. And yet, and yet, and yet.
The aurora borealis is actually an amazing metaphor of us, because we see it's not a linear, it's kind of wild nature. It's kind of going, yeah. So it is amazing, perfect metaphor for what our reality can be if we open, not fixed in any way. It can go everywhere. Divine light. And I think of all people I have met until now, I think you are the person that kind of embody no concept. You don't have any concept. So in your kind of holding, we can go everywhere. So you are kind of one of the gifts is you are a feminine holder, and in being a feminine holder, if you are in balance, everything can come. So because you don't have any concept, and in that you are the perfect holder, because everything can unfold. We can be everything. And that's what I also do with my client. But and because if I have a fixed way in me, then I'm not allowing the people I meet and help to their next stage.
Thank you.
So thank you for being an inspiration in my life. And thank you so much for being in this podcast.
It's been a pleasure. And maybe you invite me back on another time.
It will be my pleasure to do so. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you for listening to the Divine Design podcast with Ann-Peggy Divine. Join us next Sunday for another Heaven on Earth unfolding conversation. With grace, reverence and unity, may the path of your divine design light the way. From the divine in us to the divine in you.